Today I'm going to be reading from the novel Beautiful Music for Ugly Children. It is by Kirsten Cron Mills, and I have 3 passages that I am going to read that I thought were important passages to pick out from this novel. Just a little brief overview. This novel is about Gabe, who's a transgender teen. He was Elizabeth, and now he's Gabe. And this is kind of the story of him coming out, making that transition from female to male, dealing with just getting through society, getting through the world as a transgender teen, and also just things that happen as a teenager and graduating from high school, friends, family issues, that kind of stuff. So, the first passage I'm going to read talks about B-sides. B-sides is a theme that kind of runs throughout the novel. Gabe is a radio host his senior year of high school, and he likes to play a lot of old music, and he also focuses a lot on B-sides, which would be like the songs that weren't so often played on the other side of the album. So Gabe talks about B-sides not only in relation to music, but also in relation to people. And he talks about how your A-side might be who you show to other people and people kind of approve of and like, and your B-side might be a different version of yourself that you hide or something like that. So for Gabe, his A-side would be Elizabeth, the female version, and then his B-side would be Gabe, who he is currently trying to transition to. So I'm going to read you this passage. It's on page 41, and it is when Gabe is hosting his radio show. I believe this is his first show, and he's talking about A-sides and B-sides, and he kind of does a little monologue here about the B-sides. When the song's finished, I take a deep breath. So tell me, listeners, are you an A-side or a B-side? Are you a top 40 hit or an equally good yet potentially undiscovered gem? I can't believe I'm saying this. Some of you might be right up there in the top 10, but if you're listening to this show, I'd bet you're more on the funky side. Dorky. Then again, I think all of us have our A and B sides, even though digital music has kind of wrecked that idea. Another deep breath. Personally, I like my B side, which is tough because everybody else likes my A side, but I'm sticking to it. I feel and hear my voice shake, but hopefully it's not noticeable on the air. And I played my B side for someone yesterday, and he was okay with it. No complaints, nothing. Can you imagine? Along the lines of loving on the B-sides, here's Don't Worry Baby, the B-side of the hit single I Get Around by the Beach Boys. It's in the Goofy CD player, so it stalls. When I almost put my finger through the on button, it finally obeys. Then when the Beach Boys are over, I wrist some patter again. I'm tired of being someone else's idea of a hit record. How about you? I know this is a radical idea, but people should get to be who they want to be. If you're going for the top of the charts, all right, A-side all the way, go for it. But if I want to play my B-side, I should get to play my B-side, and only the cool kids listen to B-sides. So I think that passage really talks about kind of what the whole novel is about, which is getting to be who you want to be, embracing who you are, and just getting to show off that side of you that maybe society isn't as accepting of, and that being a good thing and that being okay. So that's the first passage. Second passage I'm going to read deals more with the form and the writing style of the novel. This novel was written in 2013, so very recently, and because of that it deals with some different new media in the book. So it has things like Facebook comments and message boards, it has text messages written out, and it also has emails written out. So I'm going to read you an email in here because I thought it was important to kind of show that there are a lot of different writing styles going on here, and that Cron Mills is able to incorporate some of the ways that teens communicate in 2013 or now into her novel to kind of help bridge that gap and help them connect with the novel. So for context, this is on page 62, and Gabe has decided to apply for, it's like a competition for radio hosting. But he originally applied as Elizabeth and now has decided that he would like to be known as Gabe in this competition. So this is an email he's trying to write to the people who are putting on the competition to try and ask if they can change him from Elizabeth to Gabe. And he's very scared that it's just going to blow the entire thing for him. So this is kind of him trying to write and rewrite the email. This is on page 62. Hello, Mr. Rosenblum. I'm no longer Elizabeth, but I am Gabe. Can I still compete? Nope. I'm becoming Gabe, a guy. Can I still be a part of your talent search? Not that either. John reads each line I write and then erase. Will you please just get it over with? How many more ways can you put it? You have no idea. I try one more time. I'm transitioning from Elizabeth to Gabriel, but I'd still love to compete. That's exactly right, John nods. Finish it up and call it good. I add a couple niceties and include my email address instead of John's. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely type, but I finally hit send. So I think that passage, like, first of all, it connects us back to the media and the culture that's going on right now, especially with teens. And it also kind of shows the struggle that Gabe is going through and the fear that he has just in how he can present himself through writing in a way that is going to communicate what he's trying to say in a non-offensive way, in a way that might relate to the people that he's writing to, or that they might actually understand what he's trying to say. And it's difficult to get that across via email, which is why he's struggling with it. And so I thought that was an interesting passage to read. The last passage I am going to read deals with the topic of suicide. And this passage is a very brief section of the book, and it's a flashback. There's not talk really of suicide in the current time of the book, but there's a flashback to when Gabe was 13 that talks about the time when he tried to kill himself because he realized that he was Gabe and not Elizabeth, and he didn't know how to deal with that, and he thought that the only way or the best way he could deal with that would be by killing himself. I think suicide is a really important topic, and especially important to bring up in the classroom setting. I think it's also important because this is suicide in the context of LGBT community, issues surrounding that, and value and self-worth and things like that, and I think that this would be a good passage to kind of talk about with students, because students are struggling with a lot of issues surrounding this, surrounding LGBT issues, surrounding suicide, surrounding mental illness, depression, all of these kinds of things. So I think that even though this is a brief section in the book, it's a really important topic that needs to be talked about. So I'm going to kind of read starting in the middle of the suicide section because it's a pretty long section. So during this time, Paige, who is Gabe's best friend, has found him standing on the edge of a bridge getting ready to jump. And Gabe is saying, just say that I'm not a woman, say that I'm not a woman, because he really just wants affirmation that he's not a woman. And so this is Paige and Elizabeth, as he was going by at the time, at the age of 13, on this bridge. She takes a deep, deep breath, and she doesn't yell. Okay, you're not a woman. Can you come over here so we can talk about it? I turn around to look at Paige again. Not at the moment. How long will you be on the ledge? Until I decide whether I want to live or die. What if I help you fix it? Fix what? It's the 21st century. People can fix anything. There's got to be a way. But nobody can help you if you jump. She puts her hands on her hips and cocks her head at me. She has a point. I turn back around and look down at the cars again. Then I wiggle my leg a tiny bit, pushing my boot out over the ledge below me. Gravity works. It would be easy. You'd help me? Yes. She sounds more like herself. We're 13. We won't be 13 forever. Another good point. I pull one leg back to the bridge side, so I'm straddling the guardrail. How can you help me? I hear Paige exhale and sob at the same time. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Just come over here by me. I pull the other leg over, stand up, and walk to Paige. She collapses into me, hugging me with all her might. So that passage, I think, is a really intense passage. It really gets to, like, very descriptive of what's going on and the conversation that's going on. I also think it's interesting the language that's used there, as 13-year-old Paige is saying, you know, I can help fix you, and using the word fix, which is really something that would be extremely offensive in the LGBT community right now. Is kind of something we've taken out of the vocabulary because it doesn't work with what's going on. But that's what 13-year-old Paige was saying to Gabe, and Gabe kind of understood, and he was like, if you can help me fix it, then maybe this is worth it. And of course he ends up living, because we see the book from him as a high school senior. So those are the three passages I wanted to share with you. This is Beautiful Music for Ugly Children by Kirsten Cron Mills.